Welcome back. We are here with Landon from King's Throne Inn in Toledo, Ohio. Landon, thank you for coming on the podcast today. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I'm very excited. Your inn is very, I love the attire and just like everything that you've done with it. So,
Thank you.
it's awesome.
Thanks.
So, why did you decide to have your own independent website versus not just listing on third party platforms like Airbnb?
So when I have my own direct booking site, I can kind of control my message a little better. Um, and a lot of times, some platforms, if they don't like what you put on their platform, they can take you off and then you're SOL, right? So having my own website, my own booking platform, I'm able to say, hey, this is the check-in time, this is checkout time, and that's my own policies and my own rules.
So it allows you to have more control, more say, just more like everything about the brand that you want to craft with your inn.
Yes, that's right.
And one thing you actually shocked me about when I first came is how much Expedia charges in commissions when they drive you a sale.
hmm
And I feel like a lot of people don't even realize that they charge 20%.
Yeah, so any booking platform which is called an OTA, which is an online travel agency, they charge an extra 15 to 25 to 30% on top of everything else. And so me as an independent in, that's money that I'm losing. Like I don't get that money. And so in turn to make sure I get that money, I have to raise my prices that are on those platforms. And if you book direct off my own platform on my own booking website, then you don't have to pay that commission.
And I think that's so important for your customers to know because a lot of people don't realize just these third party platforms in general take so much money from businesses.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's you know, there's two ways to think about it. Okay, so they charge that much, but you're also getting that much more exposure. Like booking.com and Expedia and Airbnb, they're everywhere. You get just hotels in whatever town, and that's the first things that pop up, right? So you do have that kind of not free, but it's called billboarding. So you can see the same places on each platform, and you can kind of decide which platform you want to book through.
And you're a preferred vendor and a preferred inn for some locations here in Toledo. What separates you from other like inns, hotels, or just places where people can stay?
So um, our location is really great, right? We're within walking distance of the art museum. We have people from all over the world come stay with us to go to the art museum, um, and we also have a lot of birders that come. People who are really excited about birds and the whole migration thing that's
Yeah.
going on right now. So the house has been pretty full for the last
Wow.
few weeks because of the migrations.
And you would say that, like what are some of the things like when people come and stay that they can expect with you guys versus just a chain hotel?
You get an actual person. Like we don't have a check-in desk. We don't have a front desk. Where you just come and um, you have the option to fully do a self check-in. So if you check in at 10 o'clock at night, I'm not necessarily going to stay up and greet you, but you'll get your door code, you'll get your check-in instructions, and each guest gets their own personalized guidebook.
Yes.
And so the guidebook really tells you everything you need to know about the area and about the inn. Um, Self check-in instructions, driving directions, your um, door code, anything and everything that you would need to know is in that guidebook.
So this guidebook is something that you put together to make sure that your guests just have that extra type of help when they're coming to stay.
Yeah, that's right. So if they, uh, most of the times when I check in guests and I greet them, it's what are your recommendations for dinner? So if I'm not around and they're looking, they can look in the guidebook and it lists, my recommendations, places that are walkable, which is only a few, but most of the time people have been in their cars for a long time traveling, and so they're up for a good walk.
And how do you go about cultivating a unforgettable experience for your guests?
Um, Well, it's not every day that you get to stay in an 1880s, Victorian home, and so that's one key thing. A lot of guests seek out places like this, like a bed and breakfast or an inn or something unique. The house is old and it has its own quirks and like noises and stuff like that, but the guests that are coming for that experience is what they're getting.
And I think you can tell when you walk in that it's just something different, right? Like you
Yeah.
see the carpet, you see the drapes, you go upstairs and you see just how different it is versus just a, you know, cookie cutter type room.
Yeah. Yep, that's right. And a lot of guests who stay for several nights, they've been staying in hotels, that are the same across the board, and then they come here and it's completely different. They, it's really a home away from home, and I know a lot of big chains say that too, but this is legit an actual home, you know.
What do you think one thing would be? What is one thing that your guests would be surprised that you do when they leave?
Um, I always check to make sure that they use the makeup towels instead of the white towels. Being a small independent inn, um, even preparing for guests, I think about how the towels are folded, how the bed is made. I do a lot of research and a lot of things on Pinterest and Instagram, stuff like that, where they make a bed a certain way or something, and so um, when guests check out, make sure that they have taken everything. Prep the room for the next guest. I guess I guess that's about it.
And there's no maid here doing that. This is
Oh
you.
no, this
This
is
is you guys.
yes, yeah. My partner and I are the show. We are the ones that are cleaning and prepping, doing all the marketing, that kind of thing.
You had a very dark period in your life when you had to have your jaw screwed shut. What were some things you learned about yourself while being in that dark place?
Um, that was probably the darkest moments of my life, right? Um, and my relationship with God and my personal relationship with Jesus really came through because when you're stuck at home and your jaw is wired shut and um, the spasms in your jaw that are trying to open just create the worst amount of pain ever, and so you can get in your head and you can you know think really bad things and um, have to just come through stuff like that. um, I remember when I was in high school, we went on a class trip, and one of the girls had her jaw wired shut, and I just thought that that was just the worst thing that anybody could ever go through, and then mine all of a sudden needs wired shut, and I'm like, oh my, I cannot, this is just terrible, and so um, you know, my family stepped up. Um, the morning of my surgery, my sisters and my nephews and my parents all put up signs on social media and said, we're thinking about you, Landon, and good luck and all this stuff, and just the outpouring of support for me in that time uh, really brought out in me the I can do anything, I can go through anything. Um, you know, God is still guiding my steps and teaching me stuff, and through all that, like what situations I shouldn't be in and what things can happen. Um, but man, my family just is awesome. They just came through, and my parents stayed here for a while, like helping me. Actually, I laid right here, and we watched Disney cartoons on the TV. Um, and even when I had guests, they understood that I couldn't talk and all that kind of stuff. So um, for me, just knowing that I can, I've been through having my jaw broken and wired shut, so I feel like I can do anything and everything that I am well able to do all kinds of stuff.
You realize you could trust yourself through any situation.
Yeah. Yep. That's right.
With, and on that point of your family being so awesome and your parents, what is one attribute that your parents instilled at you at a young age that you are now grateful for?
Uh, being nice, regardless. My dad told us, my sisters and I, to always be nice. Like it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what that other person is doing or saying to you. You have, I'm going to say obligation, but you have an obligation to be nice to other people, and that goes with our religious background, our relationships with Jesus, stuff like that. That really shines through when you're nice to people who are just terrible to you.
I love it. If you had the opportunity to sacrifice something that you value to make your dreams come true, would you do it? And what would it be?
I don't know that one right off the top of my head. More or less because I'm living what I wanted to do from a very young age. The little tiny town that I grew up in had old buildings, and I would just love to have bought one and made it into something, right? Well, this is, I bought this house and I've turned it into something that, can sustain the history and the well-being of the house and the area.
I love it. I have two more questions for you.
Okay.
If you could have dinner with two people, one person from the past and one person from the present, who would it be and why?
Um, Probably from my own family would be my grandmother, or we called her Maury. Um, she passed away when I was like first, second, third grade, and so I never got to know her on an adult level. And I always, looking back now, I'd always play in the kitchen when her and Papa would talk at the dinner table, or whatever. And I always, now looking back, I'm like, I wonder what they were talking about, and just how what her outlooks on life were, and what made her tick, and what her ideas were. And then from the present, let's go big. I guess, can I say President Obama? Just because I like his outlook on, you know, everything that his presidency stood for, and what all he did. Just to sit and like listen to him talk about ideas and things that he has. I just feel like he was a pretty level-headed guy, and I just admire that in someone in that kind of a leadership position.
I like it. One more question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you decide to partner with us and offer the discounts?
I am really big into networking and partnering with local businesses here in Toledo. I think that together we can make Toledo even greater than what it is. And so, guests that come in, if I can offer them, a discount at another place that partners with you, that just makes the whole thing work. And I'm just on board. I love it.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of collaboration opportunities. I'm very excited to explore what those look like.
Yeah.
So, Landon, those are the questions I have for you.
Okay.
How can people find you? And what is one thing you want to leave people with?
You can find me on all the social platforms: Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, in various forms of the King's Throne Inn. And you can find me on my website, www.thekingsthrone.org. And one thing I want to leave with people is you got to be nice. Be nice to people. That's all you got to do.
Awesome. Well, Landon, thanks for coming on, man. I appreciate it.